Them as well. What a move to the 48. Oh, look at this. And onto the straight they come.
Brilliant move there from number 40 to make it through. That left-hander sliding up the inside, going up now over Hawthorne Hill, down Pilgrim's Drop, and it's brilliant stuff here at Brands Hatch.
Hello everybody and welcome to Road Atlanta for round 3 of the World Sportscar Championship for another 90-minute race. We've already completed the first 3 hours of our new season, but now it's time to move outside of Europe and go to the United States for the first time. It's Road Atlanta, the twists and the turns, the rises and falls of this iconic racetrack for an hour and a half. My name's Ewan O'Leary. Jack Stiles will be alongside me for this one again, and it's fair to say that this one is maybe a little bit different to what we've had previous in this championship. It's certainly different to the race that we saw last time out at Monza. The wide open spaces, the high speeds of that circuit will be replaced by tight spaces and twisty racetrack for the second time this season, you could argue. Road Atlanta this time for round 3.
Yeah, I was going to say exactly what you've just said. The wide open circuits, the FIA Grade 1 circuits of Catalonia and Monza are gone. We're onto the twisty tightness of Road Atlanta. I'm sure I say this every week. An excellent circuit. Is one of my favourites on the iRacing service. Of course, all the drivers will be up to speed with this circuit. Petit Le Mans happens here every single year, and LMP3 GT4 here is going to be a really interesting class dynamic, Ewan. The LMP3s are going to be really strong through that first sort of section of the lap through the S's. Getting that right through traffic is going to be crucial.
As someone just mentioned in the chat, it's the World Sports Car Championship Petit Le Mans, if you like. It's very little. It's a Petit Le Mans, to be honest with you. 90 minutes tonight. Christophe Herbinot is the championship leader going into it in LMP3 Pro. He's actually accumulated the most points of anybody over all 4 categories. He's 10 points ahead of Nathan Moore, who's just 6 ahead of Adam State. Matt Caruana, the only other driver to be above 60 points. Matthias Penteler rounds out the top 5. Leo Bonneman is 6th, just a point ahead of Nikolai Loftus, a point ahead of Callum Brandt. Then it's Julien Plumet and Mert Menderes to round out the top 10 in LMP3 Pro. In LMP3 AM, it's a lot closer. 6 points separate the top 4, with Mac Mafarkwa leading. Jost Boymeister, the opening round winner, is bumped down to 2nd, along with Dan Piazza, with Petter Herschel 4th. Adam Locke is up there in the top 5 as well, and then there's quite a jump to the rest. Nicholas Salaputis and Dalin Banshaw are tied in 6th place. Adam Hedgecock only a point behind them. Nicholas Skertz and Mads Kjeldsen round out the top 10 here in LMP3 Pro. LMP3 AM, excuse me. This is GT4 Pro. 4 points at the top here. Adam Isaacson and Timo Hayden, the 2 at the top. Jeremy Rouleau is 3rd ahead of Alessandro Proti. Then it's Sasha Anglesey and Ashley Finch tied on 53 points. Mamu Gadzella is 7th ahead of Matthew Loveridge, and Gretchen Simner tied on 41. And then Nicholas Hyder in the LMP3s last year, the switch to the GT4s this year has got him 10th place after 2 rounds. Josh Boot is leading in GT4 AM ahead of Lee King McGee. Then it is Lee Berries just ahead of Paul King. Then it's Jack Wilkins running up the top 5. Evan Natafas is 6th ahead of Rob Sutherland and Howard Hassan, who are tied on 39. Then it's Riley Phillips and Michael Goff to round out the top 10 there. So that's where we all stand in terms of the drivers. In the teams, WSR Esports Bookkicker are leading the way in what's a really close championship here. 6 teams covered by 14 points. Writer Engineering Esports leading the charge, with DCW Racing and AKM Racing tied in 3rd place. Kimura Racing Black are tied with Impulse on 59, with Boots and VDS by Undercut and Old Dogs tied on 57. Lots of ties in the teams, it seems. Oddie Simsport and Wild Things Racing round up the team's standings. So that's where we are with those. And we will go to the racetrack for qualifying. The LMP3s have already been out. Championship leader Christophe Herbinot is on pole for the pros. Nicholas Skertz has gone 9th overall and on pole in AM. In GT4 Pro, Sasha Anglesey, who we are following his adversary at the moment, Timo Hayden, he's trying to go a bit quicker, but it's Anglesey at the moment who's leading the way by 21 thousandths of a second. Josh Boot, championship leader in GT4 is leading the way there, and there he is in the Mercedes. This is a session that's going to change quite quickly by the looks of things. Jack, Adam Isaacson has already gone to the top in the time we've been watching them.
They're already halfway into their 15-minute qualifying session, so I think the drivers are going to be starting to get into their groove. As you said, Adam Isaacson going to the top by a 10.5 over Sasha Anglesey and Timo Hayden, the 2 Impulse Racing teammates who have been working together so far in qualifying by the looks of it. Michael Pedersen in GT4 Pro going to P number 6 as we watch Josh Boot heading down the S's in that 606. And Josh has actually had a really good start to this season, Ewan. Been incredibly strong in that GT4 AM category. Got a little bit unlucky at Monza, which maybe took his chance at the win away, but I think they this 606 Mercedes is a good bet on your winner in AM today.
Yep, and indeed for the season as a whole as well, Josh Boot is a good bet if you want one to maybe win a title here this season. We'll wait and see if he does or not. He's leading by 2 tenths ahead of Lee King McGee. Then it's Paul King. He's currently in the pit lane down in 3rd place. Josh Boot, of course, was 9 points away from winning the title in season 1. Lee Berridge was the winner on that occasion. It doesn't seem that Lee Berridge is actually here today. I can't see him. Oh no, he is 4th place. I just can't read. There you are. 4th place for Lee Berridge, the reigning champion, although it's not necessarily been a season to remember him just yet, but we are early. We're on board with the driver in 2nd place in AM for now, just under a tenth away from pole, and there's 2 drivers within a tenth of pole in Pro as well. Adam Isaacson is now leading Thomas Marks Burgess, who is one of 3 new drivers, in the field tonight. Ollie Brocklehurst and Kim Andre Björklund are the other 2 new drivers as well. Björklund is in the GT4 Pro category, whereas Ollie Brocklehurst I can't actually see in the field here today. So he's in the season, but not necessarily racing here tonight. Here are the track conditions, just over 21 degrees. It is still early spring. We are going to get towards summertime, Jack, and maybe the temperatures will get a little bit more toasty later on in the season, but for now it's no worries. We are early in the morning as well, of course, which is keeping these conditions ideal for racing and for qualifying especially.
And of course the cold track is going to give these drivers absolute maximum grip for the tyres, so incredibly fast lap times coming your way at the moment in qualifying. Interlagos is going to bring really the first race of the season, Ewan, where we're going to see those high temperatures. The drivers are going to have to be a little bit more mindful, and I think the strategy could be very different come that round. But I think the strategy today is going to be somewhat similar to what we've seen. It's going to be drivers maybe trying different things, looking at how to play that fuel strategy. Of course, 2 pit stops required for the race, and I'm sure we'll talk about this more throughout the 90 minutes, but getting those pit stops timed right, I think that's going to be crucial. And as I said, traffic as well, crucial.
It is 4.5 minutes remaining here in this session, and waiting to see whether there's going to be any improvement here. Now, how much credit can we give to this for Timo Hayden and his position in the field so far? You notice this, 3 Impulse Racing Mercedes driving around together, line astern. They're currently making their way through turns 6 and 7. This will lead them onto the back straight, of course, and this is maybe where they'll get the most benefit, but I'm surprised to see this, Jack, to be honest, at a circuit where this would probably provide the least benefit of any of the 3 venues we've been to so far.
It'll probably provide the least benefit, but I think it will still provide a fair amount of benefit. That long back straight, that is very draggy. For these GT4 cars, getting that absolute maximum top speed is going to be important. Impulse Racing, currently 2, 3, 4 in the qualifying standings for GT4 Pro. However, it's in the opposite order than you're seeing them on track at the moment, with Sasha Anglesey leading the way from Timo Hayden, and then the 72 of Thomas Marks Burgess running up in seconds. But they still can't beat that lap time of Adam Isaacson, the 1:23.917, and they're getting close. I think they're giving it everything they can, but with 3 minutes left in qualifying, they don't have a lot of time to trump that.
Yeah, he is the championship leader, of course, Adam Isaacson, and one certainly to watch here this season. He has scored the lowest amount of points, though, of any championship leader so far this season, and that maybe suggests the closeness of the GT4 Pro Championship that we're seeing this season. You mentioned that the dragginess, of the back straight for these GT4 cars. Is that a region where we're expecting most of the lapping done here for the LMP3s? Because we know that this is going to be a very heads-up circuit in terms of overtaking that slower traffic, although we can't exactly say that Catalunya was easy for them, for example.
The back straight, that'll be an important part for these LMP3s, to clear as many as the GT4s as possible. I think we're going to see the typical prototype GT move into turn 12, the final turn out of 10A, 10B, where the prototype places the car on the inside. The LMP3s can get up the inside there, I believe, on the GT4s and make it safe, so it's going to be down to both to work together. Of course, in that situation, it really does take 2 to tango. Getting the pass as well down the S's, I think that could be harder for the LMP3s today. They are a little bit more understeery than an LMP2 or an LMDH. So I think that's going to be trickier. I'm also not sure about the power and the acceleration that they can really give to get past these GT4s, as Timo Hayden to the top in GT4 Pro with 2 minutes remaining at 1:23.830. Adam Isaacson now, he is out on circuit. He has changed tyres, Ewan, so I think going for one final crack at this pole position.
Yeah, we'll see whether he can manage it. There's Adam Isaacson weaving around like you wouldn't believe on the back straight, looking to generate some tyre temperature if he can, with a minute and a half to go. This will be final chances for him as Michael Pedersen improves up to 5th place, head of Alessandro Protti, very encouragingly close at the top of the GT4 Pro standings, by the way. And there's the important part of a lap here at Road Atlanta as well. Just notice the way he kept the car a bit further to the left there on the way in towards 10B. He just increases exit slightly onto the front straight and give himself the best possible run onto the front straight. And he will hope that he can find the 10th that's required to take this pole position away from Timo Hayden.
And maybe that 10th can be found by the run he got down the hill out of 10B through 11 and 12 to turn 3. Absolutely pinpoint perfect on the curb, using as much of the curb as humanly possible through turn 4. Turn 5, getting that change of direction almost instantly. It's so tricky to do, especially in these GT4 machines, through turn number 5. Mind the curb on the exit, make sure you don't lose the rear end of the car. A little bit of a brush of the grass, but Adam Isaacson should be okay here. Turn 6 and 7. Now these are crucial, Ewan, because especially turn 7, turn 6, you want to carry as much speed as possible, but do not want to sacrifice turn 7. You need to get the perfect exit here, because this straight, if you gain half a tenth here, it's 3/10 at the end of the straight. It's a massive difference you can gain.
Yeah, it is a huge disparity if you can just get this right. Now, Adam Isaacson down into the bottom of the hill here. Turn 10A is going to be such a crucial braking zone for him as the checker flag now waves. He is the only driver really capable of taking this away from Timo Hayden, I think, without a miracle. Although Sasha Anglesey is out there on the circuit, Adam Isaacson is not going to remain out there because he goes to pit lane. He's not impressed with the improvement. It wouldn't have been enough, clearly, and Timo Hayden looks to take pole. Sasha Anglesey, as I mentioned, is still out on the circuit, or was still out there improving. We'll see whether that remains. Michael Pedersen and Alessandro Protti are out there too right now. They're out the final corner. Is Sasha Anglesey? Maybe if it's not going to be pole, it might be a couple of places at least for the driver of the number 3 car. He goes over the line, mounts the curb, and does he improve? Yes, up to 2nd place. So it's going to be an impulse front row by the looks of it. The two covered by about a quarter of a second, quarter of a tenth even.
And Timo Hayden actually dragged Sasha Anglesey around for most of that lap, yielded into the final chicane at the very last moment, as you saw on your screen. So excellent display of teamwork there from Impulse Racing to lock out the front row in GT4 Pro. But Adam Isaacson, I just wonder whether maybe one of the runs out of the corner wasn't quite right. I'm not sure. It looked like a good lap, but at the same time, a good lap can look good, but not be good.
Exactly. Here is Kim-Andre Björklund in this livery that he very often runs, by the way. You commentated on him in a NASCAR Oval League in the last few months, and run a very similar livery to that one, so he's going to be very recognisable in his black and red. Here's the starting grid, though, ready for 90 minutes of action at Road Atlanta. It's championship leader Christophe Herbigno, the leader away, with a 1:13.1, enough for pole position ahead of his rival 2 weeks ago, Matt Caruana. Adam State for WSR is going to be 3rd ahead of his teammate Nathan Moore. There's going to be Nikolai Loft and Matthias Penteler on row 3. 7th place will be Mert Mendres. He's in the top 10 in the pro standings. Also, Leo Bonneman is there too, and they're sharing row 4. Nicholas Skeets is first of the LMP3 AM, and he's just come in YouTube chat to tell me how to pronounce his name, so thanks for that. Callum Brandt is 10th. Ahead of Peter Herschel and Adam Hedgecock on all AM row 6. Dylan Banshaw is ahead of Taylor Lane on row 7, ahead of Dan Piazza and Julien Plumet. Joost Boymeister, week 1 winner, is 6th in AM today. Mats Kjelsen and Mac Mafarko are next ahead of Doriano Ricciuti to round out the top 20. Jacob Jenner is 9th in AM ahead of Toby Ward, then Adam Locke and Tom Weston to round out the LMP3s. Then it's Timo Hayden and Sasha Anglesey to start off the GT4s. Adam Isaacson is alongside Thomas Marks Burgess, the new driver, who's 28th today overall. Michael Pedersen and Alessandro Proti next to Amo Gertzella and Richard Simnor. Kevondre Bjorkland and Connor Clifford round out the top 10 with Matt Loveridge and Andy Shield. That marks out a top 12, all with GT4 Pros. The AMs come next with Josh Boot and Lee King McGee. Paul King and Lee Berridge, the reigning champion, is fourth, ahead of Evangelos Natafas, Rob Sutherland, Jeremy Rollo and Alistair Leckie, the final of the drivers. Now, Rollo and Leckie didn't actually set times in that qualifying session, so I believe we're going to get at least 42, hopefully 44 onto the grid here today. Alistair Leckie being an LMP3 driver, Jeremy Rollo a GT4 Pro driver, who will start this race slightly out of position, it's worth noting. So there are the teams and drivers laid up on the starting grid, ready for a full formation lap, which shouldn't take too long around here at Road Atlanta, and then we will be ready to go racing for the first time and the only time tonight for 90 minutes. So 44 drivers, Jack. It's not quite as big of a grid as it was 2 weeks ago, but maybe that's a good thing around Road Atlanta.
See, you say that, but it's a small circuit, so I still think it's going to be a busy run here today for 90 minutes, especially for these LMP3 drivers. I'm quite interested to see how it will play out. Obviously, we've seen some interesting tactics in traffic all the way through in the first opening 2 rounds of the season, Ewan, and I think again this is going to bring a different dynamic to the race. No one really knows what's going to happen until we get out there and really get into it. So I'm quite excited to see. Obviously, you said it's a short pace lap here at Road Atlanta. By that I mean it's a full pace lap, but it's a short lap, so the drivers really do not have long to get ready as we see the GT4 field start to head down into turn number 1, and it doesn't look to be a lot of tyre warming from GT4. They're just sort of slowly rolling and they're going to make their way around the circuit.
And it is very slow as well, the pace car out there on the circuit, so that's worth noting in terms of tyre temperature. We'll see how aggressive it gets maybe on the back straight. A couple of people to say hello to watching along this evening. As I said, Nicholas Skeets, I presume he's not going to be chatting any longer, he'll be driving. On pole for LMP3 AM. We noted last week actually, and it's an interesting phenomenon in AM, isn't it, that you are in the middle of the field despite being a pole sitter, so that does make your life a little bit more difficult, and actually we saw that 2 weeks ago where the pole sitter got taken out immediately at turn 1, or on the opening laps anyway of the race, and so sometimes it can be more of a curse. He'll be hoping that it's a blessing today.
And one of the things as well to consider if you're an AM, sometimes if you're towards the front of the AM field, you could be in the midfield of the pros. Maybe you've got some pros who are out of place that are going to be starting behind you, and these drivers, they're all on the circuit together. Yes, they're different classes, but the points matter and the track position matters as well. So I think you're going to see these AMs really defend from these pros to make sure that they don't lose the track position throughout the race.
Jack Osborne into the YouTube chat as well. I'm presuming going to presume supporting Adam Hedgecock today, who's starting off third in that LMP3 AM category, and in or elsewhere, Nicholas Salputis saying that he won't be driving today, decided to not start because he thought he was going to be a danger to others. I mean, fair play to keeping the minds on everyone else and so on, and taking the responsible choice if you believe that to be the one. So fair play to him. Unfortunately, not for him tonight, but plenty of other drivers, 42 of them starting here tonight, ahead of 90 minutes in round 3 of the World Sports Car Championship. Let's go racing in America for the first time, and it's the LMP3s who fan out 3 wide immediately, as there was a bit of an argument as to when they would see the green flag there. The green flag can be thrown any time they come down the hill there. In the end, Christophe Herbinot deciding to make them wait, and it turns out to be the right call. He leads over the top of the hill for the first time with Matt Caruana in tow, and then Adam State with a noticeable gap back to Nathan Moore, his WSR teammate. There's the run down the hill. Do they get through cleanly? It looks like it. It looks like it's been a good start in LMP3. The GT4 start a little bit earlier, and look at that, the stringing out of a slightly diminished GT4 field today. Only 18 of them on the grid here, which is actually only 75% of the amount that we have in LMP3s here this afternoon. Over the top of the hill they'll go for the first time. It's Impulse Racing domination to start off with. Timo Hayden making a good start, Sasha Engelsey second, and it's going to be the new driver, Thomas Mott Burgess, who's going to be third ahead of Adam Isaacson.
So obviously with LMP3 we have seen some contact at the start there, a few cars caught up as well throughout the lap, but GT4 nice and clean start everyone has got underway well in that class. Adam Isaacson now looking down to the inside of the number 72 of Impulse Racing Mercedes, but hasn't quite make the move work. Got a little bit loose through turn 7, looks to have lost the momentum. Now under pressure from the driver of Michael Peterson. So could the 97 be getting past the Adam Isaacson's number 78? Adam Isaacson has been so strong at the start of every single of both races so far, Ewan, this season. Maybe quite not getting it here at Road Atlanta.
And there was a brief change for the lead there. Christophe Herbinot was overtaken by Matt Caruana briefly, but no longer. He leads again as it's side by side in GT4. It was side by side up here too. Adam State didn't really have anywhere to go, and so he stayed third throughout that battle at the very front of the field. You're right to point out, Jack, there were a few people who went off the road in LMP3 early on. Dan Piazza was one of them, along with Mert Menderes, who's in pit lane. So is Dylan Banshaw and Julien Plumet. The latter two didn't even make it round the opening lap. These two have, though. In fact, they're nearly at the end of the second lap. There was a change for the lead side by side in the bottom right of your screen while we have a look as to what happened in the main replay. It's going to be to Adam Hedgecock, unfortunately, on the second lap. That's up at turn 5, a corner where I think we're going to see a lot of action today.
Yeah, Adam Hedgecock just got so unlucky with getting it round at T5. He looks as to be able to get it going again, but Matt Caruana to the lead of LMP3. Christophe Herbinot hot on his heels though in the number 92. I don't think he's going to let that slide as we head to another replay. This is Dan Piazza. What's happened to the 56?
Yeah, this is one of those drivers who went around, and there is the spin. He's going to nose it into the wall too. Oh dear. And the front wing comes off quite spectacularly so as well, and that will require repairs. He is in pit lane for repairs. Mert Menderes has already been in for his. He's used his fast repair and he's back out on his way again. Unclear at the moment as to whether the others will re-emerge. Looks like they will do. Julien Plumet seems to be making his way out again, although he is a lap and a half down already in this race, and he's going to have to take quite some time to even overtake the GT4s in the remainder of this race. Let's have a look at what happened to some more of those drivers. Nikolai Loft, the latest of them to go for a spin. Here it is, turn 5 again. It's not the inside curve, but the outside one that spins him around this time.
So do you remember the curb I mentioned while we were watching Adam Isaacson's final qualifying lap? I said, mind the bump, it can unsettle the car. That is exactly what I'm talking about. Nikolai Loft has become a cropper in the 69, so what can happen if you take too much curbs? The GT4s we're now seeing running over that exact same curb. They're going to be more forgiving. They're more road car-like. They're a bit softer, Ewan. The LMP3s, they're incredibly stiff. It's going to be much harder for them to cover that part of the circuit. The drivers have to be careful.
They do, and especially in LMP3, as we've already seen, we'll be seeing plenty of replays through there. And I think, yeah, it's worth mentioning, not just a bump, but plural, the bumps on the exit of that corner. It is very vicious indeed for that category. Adam Isaacson's up to third in GT4, although he is still behind a train of Impulse Racing cars. Timo Hayden and Sasha Anglesey leading the way. Now, I wonder whether this is going to make it more difficult for him. With 2 team cars ahead of him, is he going to find this difficult as he gets teamed up on maybe by Impulse Racing, who cover 3 of the first 4?
He's sort of the filling in an Impulse sandwich there, really. So it's going to be tricky for Adam Isaacson, I think, to keep going. I think Sasha Anglesey and Timo Hayden will be working together as we watch a replay of Callum Brandt now in the 58 Pro machine. Again, losing it into turn 5. This has become a really tricky corner. And we're only 4 or 5 laps into this race, and everyone's starting to get caught out.
And did you notice in those 3 examples, they were all slightly separate too? It was on the way down the hill, actually. Callum Brandt barely made it to the corner before having his accident there. Nikolai Loft was most of the way through it before heading his way off. And through the middle, Adam Hedgecock was the one who went off sort of on that inside curve. So that was very notable, I think, as well. As we get GT4 traffic for the first time, Matt Caruana leads. Where has Christophe Herbinot gone? Because Adam State is now in second position. This has been a disastrous first run through traffic for the championship leader, who's now third.
And look at the lead that Matt Caruana has been able to pull. It's 2 seconds. Although Caruana's just caught traffic, and I think Adam State has managed to close that back up by just a few tenths. But the leader's very much into traffic. You can see how busy it is going down the back straight. Now, at this point in the circuit, the LMP3s aren't going to need to worry too much. Replay of Paul King. He is unfortunately out in the 99. This is going down the hill and there was contact going into turn number 4. One of the really tricky places to pass. Oh, dearie me, that was incredibly close to a very big accident.
It was. He's not the only GT4 AM to be in the pit lane. Evan Natapas is also down on the lane already, but Paul King seems to be the first one confirmed out of the race, because Dan Piazza is still in pit lane getting repairs and has not officially confirmed retirement just yet. Look at this gap now at the front of the field. Matt Caruana 2.5 seconds over Adam State, who's second, then Christophe Herbinot, who is third. Let's have a look at more goings on. This is to Evan Natapas, who seemingly went off before traffic actually got to him. There is the moment. So it was sort of connected to Paul King's off that Evan Natapas was avoiding and couldn't quite stop the car in time.
Yeah, I think Evan Natapas, maybe avoiding the original incident, just missed his braking point, couldn't quite get it stopped. But Adam State in the traffic as we're watching him now coming out of turn number 7, focusing on Christophe Herbinot. And it looks as though actually the gap has closed just a little bit and Adam State has come back. Matt Caruana, I think, got caught up in the S's, and Adam State has really taken advantage of that. Again, this is where we're seeing it ebb and flow in the traffic queue, and where it is going to sort of extend and decrease. But Matt Caruana, he's free, he's gone, he's got no traffic as we ride on board with you, Baumeister.
Yeah, great winner this season in the LMP3 AMS, getting passed down into turn 1, and they're making what I would describe as the correct decision in passing the GT4s here at the top of the hill, and unfortunately making contact. Well, that was a bit of weird contact, I would describe it as, and a very slow and lazy spin for Baumeister, who reverses onto the circuit about as much as you would expect to see. Any further, he would have clattered into people, and then gets back going again. It seems that the curse of being first in LMP3 AM is hitting again, because Nicholas Skates is not leading anymore. In fact, I'm struggling to see him and where he's managed to get himself here. He's third now. Mats Kjodsen is leading the way, but the reason I mention it is because Petter Herschel was leading the way until this a few moments ago. This is into turn 1. He tries to duck below a GT4, just misjudges it slightly.
And this round he goes into the inside wall, very close to contact on the rejoin there. Incredibly lucky for Peter Herschel to not cause any more incidents as he was rejoining the racing surface. As we go back to live pictures of your GT4 race lead, Adam Isaacson really putting the pressure onto Timo Heiden and Sasha Anglesey. In fact, he's going to go for a move into second place on the inside, actually trying for the lead at this contact. Timo Heiden's round, Sasha Anglesey going right around the outside of Adam Isaacson. Isaacson's going to have the inside for the run down the hill. Timo, surprisingly not angry at that move. It looks as though Sasha Anglesey had held onto the lead, but Adam Isaacson hot on the heels into the first corner.
Drama in GT4, and Adam Isaacson tries to disrupt the impulse domination that we've seen so far in this race. Only 10 minutes gone in the World Sports Car Championship at Road Atlanta, and Adam Isaacson wants to upset the imbalance at the front of the field. Sasha Anglesey now the new leader, but as you mentioned, Timo Heiden flashing the lights as much as he could do there, as he just displays his fury at getting carted out the way at turn 10A. Without seeing it from a different angle, I can't really comment on whether he's justified in doing so or not, but he was diving from a long way back, was Adam Isaacson.
As I say, it came from a very long way back to Adam Isaacson. As we go to the replay, this is Nikolai Loft heading down through the final corner. Again, hitting trouble here, Ewan, in that number 69 LMP3 into turn at number 1. And I think it's just going to be... It's the rear end again, it's snapped. Oh, wow, that was a big accident. And I suspect that's going to be Nikolai Loft's race over.
Well, he's down on pit lane. Most of the drivers who have been in pit lane have re-emerged, including Paul King, who we said was at the race because he was briefly for 2.5 minutes, but he's back again now. So he's out there on the circuit all over again. Whether Nikolai Loft will be is another question. There was a brief change for second 2 as Adam State was under pressure from Christophe Herbinot. That seems to have gone away, but the gap seems to have doubled to the race leader, Matt Caruana, who's having things all his own way as far as things go at the moment. Very much enjoying his day out there after, of course, 2 weeks ago winning the previous race at Monza 2 weeks ago. This is the incident between Adam Isaacson and the Impulse drivers. This is a closer up angle. Now he's trying to get down the inside of Sasha Anglesey, which is fair enough, I think, but I don't think he really intended to get down the inside of Timo Heiden, although he is alongside for quite some time. Timo Hayden is turning into the corner pretty much as you would do without anyone alongside you.
See, I would say Timo Hayden had the right to the corner. Adam Isaacson came from so far back. I'm not sure Timo expected him to be there. One of the rules I always think of is, was there overlap at turn-in? And if I'm perfectly honest, I'm not sure there was, Ewan. Now, there needs to be more angles look at this, and of course race control can go and have a look at this after the race. We do not have live race control. It's all done post-race in the World Sports Car Championship. However, I do wonder whether there may be a penalty coming for that, and that might be going towards Adam Isaacson. I'm just not sure that move was on.
Yes, although I do generally don't like someone turning in and then blaming it on someone else. Whether that's the case in this instance or not, we'll wait and see what the stewards have to say about that. This was the battle that was going on just previous to that. It was between Adam State and Christoph Herbeno, and we very nearly saw an incident of our own there, because he tried to get down the inside of State there, did Herbeno, into turn 7. Now he's flashing the lights. Not sure whether he was disappointed at getting cut off there, or whether he's just feeling the need to distract Adam State ahead of him. But Christoph Herbeno there was playing with fire a little bit, because if you do get down the inside and make contact, then you could be the one to find yourself in trouble.
Yeah, and I think as well, you know, he just got the slightly better run through the middle of T7 there in the traffic, but had to get out of it. It's allowed Adam State a bit of breathing room. They're going to be clear of traffic they're probably going to get one car this lap, the number 99, and they're going to be clear. And I think that's where Matt Caruana has really benefited in this race, Ewan, I think some of it is luck. He's managed to time the traffic right. I also think some of it is he's just, you know, these guys have maybe not navigated it just as well. Maybe they just haven't had the luck. You just do not know with these races.
You certainly don't, and I wasn't expecting Adam Isaacson to go for the lead, but he has, and he briefly held it there alongside Sasha Engelsey, who's won it back again, and now Adam Isaacson is coming back again in towards the first position. So it's all going on in GT4 Pro and LMP3 Pro. Seemingly all kicked off maybe down at turn 6 of the previous lap, because it's still going on here by the time they get to the front straight. Isaacson now finally leads. Wonder whether the Impulse drivers are deciding, well, we can just tuck in here and save the fuel behind him, then we can give him the illusion of leading for the moment. But not sure whether that was intentional or not. This is the battle in LMP3. Christoph Herbeno back to second place more definitively this time.
Yeah, Herbeno going to lovely move up the inside into 10A, 10B on Adam State. But Adam State looking to go around the outside, maybe try and get the cut back off the corner through 12. I don't know whether he's going to have enough pace to look up the inside. And in fact, Herbeno goes defensive, so State not really with much more option other than to follow the 92 through the corner. Now it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Herbeno here, whether he can start to pull away from Adam State in the clean out, or whether he's going to need some traffic to enable that to happen. We have seen State be incredibly quick so far this season. However, the same can be said for Christoph Herbeno, so I think this is going to be a very balanced fight.
It certainly seems that way, and this fighting as well is just allowing Matt Caruana to get up the road as well, isn't it? With an hour and 15 remaining, I know that's most of this race, but in real terms that's not actually that long to pull in a 6-second margin at this kind of level.
No, I mean, we're looking at sort of 50 odd laps left in this race, and to pull in 6 seconds, we're talking tenths a lap. It hasn't got to be seconds, and you know, something can change so quickly, especially at Road Atlanta. It's such a fast, tight, twisty, volatile circuit that anything can happen. You know, we just do not know. Matt Caruana, he has pace at the moment, but you have to question, is he going too fast too early on? He's going to need to take more fuel potentially. There's so many factors that are going to come into this that I think we cannot start to think about at this stage whether we're going to be seeing a very dominant run from the 17 or whether one that's maybe going to start to rubber band itself back towards each other towards the end of the race.
We'll see. The traffic can do that, of course, so we'll look out for that. We're back on board in GT4. Michael Pedersen is the one we can see the front right wheel of here. He's got the... You may have been able to notice that, to be honest, with the 3 Impulse drivers ahead. And Adam Isaacson, who's actually doing a good job of just putting the pressure on them, just pulling them apart slightly, despite being the one to lead around it. And this is kind of why I was surprised to see the Impulse drivers trailing one another in qualifying, because for me, Road Atlanta is not one of those circuits where you see a massive difference in slipstream, and for me, Adam Isaacson's proving that right now, because he's being able to pull away despite the fact that 3 teammates who are helping each other and don't have any worries about fighting with one another are struggling to keep up with him despite the benefit of the slipstream around this track.
I wonder whether we're seeing Impulse going on a fuel-saving strategy here. They've gone, okay, we're not sure we have the ultimate pace over the 78 SimRC.de machine. Let's try something different. Let's go for fuel saving. Let's try and, play it out in the pit stops, which we have seen so far this season, and it has worked. So it's going to be something. I just wonder whether Impulse are going to try something. Timo did it at Catalunya in round 1 and ended up winning the race, and I just wonder whether we're starting to see teams work together, band together to really pull the best out of this strategy.
This is a bit awkward. Taylor Lane working his way through the middle for Prestanda Nomad here. He's up to 5th, is Lane, driving for Prestanda Nomad as he has done for quite some time, at least a year now. He's taken on the traditional bright blue of that team. He's just ahead of Leo Bonaman, who was top 10 in the season standings so far, currently top 10 in this race too, 6th place in the LMP3 Pro, searching for his way through. And we haven't been short of battles so far, nearly 20 minutes in, and it's been all going on. Unfortunately though, we've only got one leading battle remaining, and that's in GT4 Pro, where it's maybe getting pulled apart there too. But as I say, we won't be short on action here today. Road Atlanta are a short and tight circuit that is going to provide it for us all day, you'd imagine.
I can't disagree with that idea, and we see it time and time again with Road Atlanta. It's such a fantastic circuit, as we actually see potentially a change of position we have in the pecking order for the Impulse racing cars. Sorry, it looks as though Sasha Anglesey in the 3 has got away, going to chase Adam Isaacson, and then the 72 and the 96, they've dropped back. Michael Peterson in the 97, he's there and waiting. Back to the battle with Taylor Lane in 32, with Leo Bonaman in the 25. They are nose to tail down the hill, pushing every limit through traffic they probably can. And now Taylor Lane going to get held up. Is Leo Bonaman going to go for the run off the corner? I think he is. Taylor Lane maybe getting a little bit too close, and in fact going past your GT4 and leader, going a long way off the circuit there for Lee Berridge.
And the flash of the lights there says it all too. Down the inside for Taylor Lane, and that should result in a retaining of the position, but that was all very dangerous through the first sector of the lap, as Leo Bonaman was sort of threatening to go down the inside at every opportunity, and that getting in the mirrors, that threatening behaviour there does make an effect, because Taylor Lane thought about going down the inside at turn 5 on a GT4 there. That would have been a bit dangerous, but he was sort of forced into it. He might well be again here. More traffic that he dives down the inside of. This is going to make overtaking slightly more difficult, unless it presents an obvious chance to Leo Bonaman. It's going to be a big struggle as they go 3 wide into the final corner. Bonaman's going to have to get his elbows out here, and the GT4's had to do a bit of give and take and get on the brakes there.
I'm not sure who's in that Porsche, but they have definitely benefited from that move. In fact, I think that's Richard Simonar in the 42, so going around the outside, incredibly brave, going 3 wide through that section of the circuit. And through all this fighting, bring in the number 12, Matthias Pentilla from RD Simsport. He wants to get involved. Let's have a 3-way fight for position 5 in LMP3.
We've had a couple of more pit stops, by the way, since we talked about them. Tom Weston has gone off in LMP3, and got Andrew Jones in YouTube asking us where he went to. I don't think it was on the opening lap, as Ben Gregory seems to be suggesting, because he pitted after 11 laps. So whether he had contact early on, I'm not sure, but he was in 11 laps ago, which isn't that long, 5 laps ago, which isn't that long in Road Atlantan terms. He's 10th place now in LMP3 AM. And I noticed actually Alessandro Proti was in at the same time from GT4, so I wonder whether those 2 incidents were related or not, but they were certainly in away from our cameras at the same time about 5 minutes ago. For whatever reason, we'll try and get to the bottom of quite what happened there, but so far, we've still got most of the drivers in the race, including the 2 debutants, one of which is here, Kim-Andre Björklund, looking for a way through on Connor Clifford here in GT4 Pro. This is the final spot inside the top 10, and maybe Björklund has got the all-important inside for the final corner, and he has.
And that was a fantastic move down the hill, and one where it really can be beneficial if you can get the run off the chicane, showing how the twists and turns of Road Atlanta can really be used to your benefit. And actually you can see the different lines coming off of turn number 1. The Aston Martin, the 114, really trying something different just to try and get a run up the hill for Connor Clifford, just to maybe try something into turn number 3. It's a dangerous move, but it's one that can be done.
It can. It's Bjorklund into the top 10 then in the Porsche, just ahead of Connor Clifford. Actually not that far away from the lead in this class. Just shows you how close it has remained for the first 20 minutes here. And Clifford's not going to let this one go away, I don't think. He's right on the back of Bjorklund, and this could present a problem for Josh Boot. Now, I know he's not in their class, but it's those two drivers who are separating Boot from Berridge, the two championship rivals from one season ago, fighting again, only 2 seconds apart. And I'm not sure how Josh Boot actually lost the lead, but Berridge has made a great start here. 3 places early on, and he does lead after 20 minutes here at Road Atlanta.
Berridge definitely seems to have found some momentum in that McLaren. Of course, Lee running the only McLaren in the field this season so far. So the 51 really starting to find its legs here at Road Atlanta as we look at the 606 of Josh Boot. And you are right, he does have an issue here because you got a pack of 4. You can see Lee leading the pack, just coming through the foreground in the shot right now in that McLaren. Of course, as I say, the only one in the field, so it's very easy to spot. But you know, I just wonder what Josh Boot is thinking here. Maybe they save some fuel. You know, Lee Berridge at the end of the day, he's pulling all 4 of them around. It's going to have some effect.
Possibly. Just wonder how far or how long those pros are actually going to stay behind him, though. I imagine that's going to change pretty soon. A good afternoon as well to Ben Gregory. We haven't said so far. Awaiting surgery, so a good luck to him again, and hopefully we can see him back in the World Sports Car Championship again very shortly, or as soon as possible. Still plenty of rounds left this season, thankfully, to see him make a return to the championship, where he was a stalwart for the opening season, of course. And hope to see you back very soon as we begin to follow, or continue to follow I should say, the GT4s. Bjorklund's getting closer to Lee Berridge again there in the McLaren. Just what sort of a threat is he going to pose in that battle? They don't score points in the same way, of course. You score points on your own in Pro and Am categories as well, and so it doesn't make an effect in that regard, but it does hold you back in terms of track position. As we go up to LMP3, Leo Bonneman is ahead of Taylor Lane, and Matthias Penteler has actually caught them both in this battle for 5th place.
I think maybe Matthias Penteler falling back a little bit from what we saw earlier on, but you are right, Leo Bonneman has managed to get through on Taylor Lane, so making his way up the field, maybe trying to make up from a poor qualifying. Not quite sure where Leo started today, but P5, of course, his teammate Christoph Herbenier running towards the front in the Boost and VDS car. So interesting to see what more progress he is going to make. But 11 seconds back from Nathan Moore, I think is going to be a tricky one.
You would think so. This is all very close into turn 7. Out onto the back straight now for Richard Simler, who's leading Matt Loveridge and Emmanuel Gaxella in the Mercedes here, sharing the Mercedes in the similar livery, of course. Out down towards the chicane at the end of the lap now. Turn 10A, the prime opportunity here to overtake Richard Simler maybe, although I feel like that was Matt Loveridge making it absolutely clear that he did not want to go down the inside there, and sort of telling Richard Simler to stop worrying about getting overtaken and drive a bit quicker, because he certainly wasn't posing any threat down there into that braking zone.
And I think Richard Simler maybe going a little bit more defensive in that Porsche just to try and hold that inside line, because that really is the beneficial line into 10A. But Matt Loveridge is smart. He's clever. We saw him running up the front and actually really challenging Adam Isaacson towards the end of the race in Monza just 2 weeks ago in that 71 machine. So I'm quite interested to see what Matt can do today. Currently running down in 7th in Pro, so maybe not having the start to the day he wanted, but oh dear, that was threading the needle and a half.
Wow. I don't know who that was, couldn't identify at the time, but that camera shot shocked me, as it turned out. Zoomed in, and LMP3 popping out of nowhere to get down the inside. And this is the danger we always see at Petit Le Mans and so on, and we always speak somewhat about the the difference in speed between the hypercars and the GT3s at the time, which I think is a more pronounced difference than these two categories of car, but that doesn't make it any less precarious, and it's not going to alleviate the problems down there at the S's, is it? Because we've already seen one GT4 driver, Paul King, off wildly down the S's as a result of an LMP3 today.
See, so what we've got to remember is GT3s, they've got so much more downforce than these GT4 machines that they can change direction a bit more suddenly. GT4, you just cannot do that. For those who don't understand the difference, of course, GT4, it's a more road-based formula. It's been around for many years. It was really championed in Europe and has gone worldwide in sort of the last 5 years, and it's excellent to see. It's a brilliant category, and with, you know, speaking selfishly, we've had it in Great Britain for an incredibly long time, and it's always been popular. So it's great to see it sort of spreading around the world. GT3, they're running much more downforce you and much more power, much more grip on those slick tyres. So they've got that opportunity to change the direction more. And actually, that goes as well for LMP3. They're built more for AMs. They're not quite so on the nose as a hypercar. So changing the direction is that little bit harder. And you do see that reflected in the traffic, and the drivers have to be mindful of that. Of course, the beauty of the R-Racing service, people can jump around between the different car classes, and sometimes if you're, say, really used to a hypercar, you might jump into an LMP3 and not quite be ready for maybe the slowness of the change in directions compared to, say, something like the Porsche or the Acura.
You're watching Matt Loveridge make his way out of the pit lane here. The first scheduled stop today, another unscheduled one, is from Toby Ward, who's recently been in from the LMP3s, and I'm not sure he's going to actually re-emerge. Dan Piazza was the first driver to retire from this race. He's part of the LMP3 AM class, and so is Toby Ward, and I fear that we may not see the number 66 car today either. Haven't given much attention so far to Mac Mufarko, who's leading actually in LMP3 AM, because we've been focusing on battles like this. Christophe Herbinot is now second ahead of Adam State, who's still close by, still within a second, but the gap only increasing to Matt Caruana, who's holding even firmer control over this race than he did at Monza, where his gap was certainly not this large after only a stint.
Now, I wasn't sure how this was going to work, especially once Christophe Herbinot got back into second place, whether he would be able to sort of maintain or close the gap up to Matt Caruana. But as you say, that gap has grown. It's just hit 10 seconds, which is probably the biggest gap we've seen in LMP3 for the lead in the Pro class anyway, for this whole season so far outside of pit stops. And that is all on green flag pace. And Matt Caruana, a little bit of contact coming up the hill for, in fact, was that actually Leo Bonamine? I think it might have been. Yeah. It was in the number 25. So, you know, as I was saying, this is an excellent lead that's been pulled out for Matt Caruana. An hour to go, though. Anything can happen. So I'm not going to start putting predictions on what's going to happen in this race. And we've seen it for both rounds so far that we have completed. It could just turn on its head completely.
It really can. So never count anything out in World Sports Car Championship racing. As we say that, Matt Caruana sets a new fastest lap, 1:13.2, the current best that we have seen out there on the circuit. So he leads by 11 seconds now. Lee Berridge still leading in GT4 AM, and he's being helped actually by the fact that there's some GT4 pros in the middle of them. Kim-Andre Björklund is no longer one of them. He's just gone through the bottom of your screen in the black and red Porsche. But the driver he just overtook, who was Connor Clifford, is still between Berridge and Josh Boot, which is separating those two at the moment. And just as much as we were talking earlier about Josh Boot being frustrated at that fight being in the middle of them, Lee Berridge will be heartened by it and will gain from this, of course, because he's not being threatened at the moment.
And it actually looks like the Aston Martin of Connor Clifford not really making too much effort at this stage in the race to sort of get around, as we see Andy Shields stopped on the inside. Oh my word, this is quite a large incident we've just seen, and that is your GT4 AM leader that was involved in that. And I think Lee Berridge could have steering damage. That car did look like it was squirreling a little bit.
Yeah, I think he does. Matthias Pentelow was the LMP3 on the racing line, and Lee Berridge is the one with damage. Surely he has. Let's check the parameters here, the suspension, as they just... Oh, that's crabbing. I can see that from here, surely. Now, look at the rear right there. That's all out of whack. I'm surprised he's going so quickly, actually, at the moment. So, look, oh God, look at him fishtailing all over the place. He's lucky that it's the pit stop window here. There's not designated windows here, but you can pit here and make it to the end on one more.
Get it in, Lee. Get your fast repair. You've still got good track position over Josh Boot. He's done incredibly well not to lose the time coming into the pit lane, but I do worry that he's not going to be able to get it in. You've just seen him go off to the left of your screen, but I think he's got down onto the pit lane. Josh Boot does take the lead in GT4 AM, but that is because Lee Berridge has come in to get his pit stop. How he got that car back, you and I do not know, but full kudos to the 51.
And the speed that he got it in at was remarkable too. That was fantastic from Lee Berridge, who now comes to a stop, and hopefully he's enabled his fast repair and he'll get going again. But that was all at turn 5. Involved Matthias Penteler, who's also into the pit lane. And as you said, the 007 of Andy Scheel was almost on the racing line there in the BMW. Now, I don't want to go too soon on this one, but it does seem like it may be a lap traffic incident at the S's again.
I'd also like to see a replay to see where people could have gone through there, because Andy Scheel, yes, you're right, I'm not really sure how far onto the racing line. The camera angle wasn't very definitive. Let's have a look at a replay for the 007, again, the only BMW in the field for the WSI Esports driver. It is an incident. That's a big hit for Andy Scheel, and he has come back on right at the apex of turn number 5. So everyone's having to go around the outside of him to avoid, and then they're finding Matthias Penteler on the curb on the outside, and I'm just not sure anyone could go anywhere there.
No, and it's interesting to see how that one's going to be viewed by Race Control, because in theory Penteler was actually ahead at the curb, but you've got to remember that the GT4s need all of that room to manoeuvre around and work out the best way into turn 5. This is the view from Matthias Penteler. He goes to the outside here, he's alongside for a while. Scheel turns across on him, and Penteler goes spinning to the outside of turn 5. Now this is the moment here, great avoidance there from one of the LMP3s, but unfortunately, as we were talking about earlier on, the GT4s don't have that kind of manoeuvrability. Bjorkland goes through without trouble, but Berridge doesn't. He clips with the rear right. Connor Clifford actually went off the road in avoidance there. Don't know whether that would have been the better choice, but Josh Boot was able to stay on the road and avoid the car on the curb and got away with it entirely. So some winners and losers in that one.
There was some winners and losers in that one. I think the biggest loser potentially is Lee Berridge, but he's got it back out. He's done his pit stop. He's back out on circuit. So I do wonder whether potentially for the 51 he's going to be in a good position. And actually, a good indicator of that, Ewan, is he's got out ahead of Connor Clifford. So I don't think he has lost any time because of that incident. The fact he's been in the 114, which he was ahead of. You can see it in the background of your screen as we go to focus on the number 51. So, I think actually Lee Berridge might have just about got away with this. If he has, it's incredibly lucky.
Well, I would preface that by saying that Connor Clifford's pit stop was 4.3 seconds longer, but his lane time was the same. I don't know how that's possible, but that's what the numbers are telling me at the moment, that his pit stop was longer, but lane time was the same for some reason.
It could be Lee missing his box, potentially, yes, and then taking a shorter stop.
I think so, because Matt Loveridge did a 4 seconds shorter stop than Lee Berridge, and you'd expect his lane time to be 4 seconds shorter, but no, it was 9 seconds shorter. So that suggests what you were saying, Jack, that maybe Berridge was slow. So I don't think he's actually gotten away with this quite as well as we hoped in some ways, because Josh Boot is going to pit shortly, and I reckon he'll be out ahead. Meanwhile, the GT4 Pro battle is taken to the pit lane. Adam Isaacson leads Cesar Engelsi onto the lane, and they are the only two. Well, I say the only two. The others are just quite a long way back now. Tom Marks Burgess also follows them in, albeit at a few seconds distance now.
Yeah, so Tom Marks Burgess, Timo Hyland, Michael Peterson, the top 5 in GT4 Pro, all coming into the pit lane. Emmanuel Gazella actually takes over the race lead, deciding to stay out for one more lap. It's going to be interesting to see what the pit stop times are like after this stop. We've seen Sasha Anglesey tucked up behind Adam Isaacson for an incredibly long time, and I know for a fact that the fuel saving is incredibly rewarding here at Road Atlanta. If you can get it right, you can save a fair amount of fuel. With it being a short lap, it is going to be not that much fuel used per lap. They're back underway in the pit lane. Sasha Anglesey at the moment is leading 26.4 second stop. Adam Isaacson going for a 34-second stop. So it looks as though Impulse Racing all running the short pit stop strategy here to try and jump Isaacson in the 78. But that is going to put Isaacson in the driving seat for the second stop when he has to take less fuel.
Yeah, and this is, well, I'm slightly surprised. First of all, they didn't split their strategy. The fact that they're going all their eggs in one basket, in one sense, that they're all using this short pit stop strategy, because if that doesn't work, then they've all had it. So I would have split it if I was them, but anyway, they've gone for the short stop with all three cars. And this is what I was kind of mentioning earlier on about the fact that they can sort of gang up on Adam Isaacson, for want of a better phrase. Timo Hayden is right behind Isaacson right now, and so I do understand the reason for him short pitting, maybe to get in the way of Isaacson a little bit, try and slow him down and so on, but it's going to feel like that to Isaacson, that he's against three drivers effectively working together, and he's sort of a lone wolf here with nobody else in Sim RC in the race to help him along. He's got to fend for himself right now, and of course he'll have that looming threat of Timo Hayden over his shoulder, because their incident at turn 10A about half an hour ago won't be forgotten.
No, and I think Timo Hayden will be looking for, maybe not revenge, but you know, getting a little bit back on Adam Isaacson for that move down into 10A, 10B. But Sasha Anglesey taking over the race lead. It actually looks as though the first round of pit stops is now complete from all of your drivers on the field. The last three GT4s now down onto the pit lane. Emmanuel Gaxella, Kim Andre Bjorklund and Lee King McGee, the final ones to take to pit road, as we are watching your GT4 Pro leader, and actually got a really comfortable lead out at the front. That short pit stop and the time that they've pulled running, he's pulled running with Adam Isaacson over his own teammates, could come in to help Sasha Anglesey, but I have to agree with you. I do wonder whether Impulse Racing maybe should have split their strategy a little bit more, but could the split strategy be actually Timo and Adam Isaacson are now back together again on circuit?
Now, what are we looking at here? This is Leo Bonneman having a spin on the exit of pit lane. Well, that's a red-faced moment for him, I'm afraid. He will get back going again, and he's currently running quite a long way down, 11th place in the pro standings now. Was he receiving repairs? Well, no, not really, but his pit stop was a bit longer than those around them. And actually, a really noticeable long stop here, Jack, is that for Christophe Herbinot. We've got Matt Caruana leading. We'll go through that in a second. We're just looking at another replay here in LMP3. This is Adam Locke going around at turn 7, spins up the rear tyres and will get out of everyone's way just in the nick of time. Matt Caruana's leading overall, ahead of Adam State, then Nathan Moore, the two WSR cars on the podium. Then it's Christophe Herbinot in 4th. Now, he did a 50-second stop, which is about 23 longer than everybody else in the field. I wonder whether that was speeding on pit lane for him.
Well, that was my thinking as well, but from reviewing the pit entry, I don't know whether that's the case. There was a little brush with the wall coming down onto pit lane as, my word, Leo Bonneman. That was a humongous incident up the top of the hill.
It was a GT4 coming out of the pit lane. Bonneman trying to open up the top of the hill there at turn 2 and just disregarding the GT4. Maybe you didn't see him. He went straight across the nose of the GT4 that will surely be back to pit lane again. I think it was Rob Sutherland in the GT4 AM category, because he's back down on pit lane again now. He's the only one to do so. Only LMP3s have retired from this race so far, and hopefully that remains the same, as this is so it wasn't Rob Sutherland on that occasion. Instead, he got completely attacked into turn 2 and 3, and I don't think there's any other word for it than that. And as he rejoins, he spins into the wall too. What a remarkable set of unfortunate circumstances for him.
I think that went from bad to worse in a matter of seconds for Rob Sutherland in the RD Sim Sport Mercedes GT4. So an incredibly unfortunate series of events there for the Brit. Eyes back on your GT4 Pro lead, as it looks as though Sasha Anglesey maybe pulling a couple of tenths over Thomas Marks Burgess in second position. But I think it's pretty stalemate at the moment in GT4 Pro. Not a lot is happening. So as we head to another replay.
Yeah, it's not Leo Bonneman again, is it? No, he'll be thankful for that. Christophe Herbinot, it is this time, his teammate. Now, what's happened to the Boots and BDS driver? Down into turn 7. he gets turned across there. I know the prototype drivers are often in the wrong in terms of making it work in lap traffic, and I don't believe that's one of these occasions.
No, I can't really say that Christophe Herbigno did anything wrong. I think he positioned his car well. As we see another incident, that's Diorana Ricciuzzi going around in the 14, coming down the S's, and yeah, I would confidently say that front left wheel is going no further. And then Evan Latifas in the Mercedes, the other car involved with Christophe Herbigno, up at turn number 7, so potentially a little bit of damage there, Ewan. I'm not sure when that occurred, so Christophe Herbigno's got some work to do.
He does, back down to 5th now as a result of that. Got overtaken by Taylor Lane and Petter Herschel, although Herschel is A, not in his class, and B, hasn't pitted yet. Well, he has, but a very long time ago, and it was for damage. I don't believe he'll make it on 2 stops as a result, but he might do, and if he does, then he'll be in the money. But he's already done, what, 25 laps this is now. The others struggled to do 30, didn't they? 28 was sort of the limit, so it's going to be pit stop time for Herschel soon. That'll leave Mac McFarquhar leading ahead of Mads Kjærsen, and then Nicholas Skeets, who we're seeing here, the pole sitter. Unfortunately didn't get away to a great start, but seems to be on the podium at least.
Yeah, Nicholas Skeets is really looking strong in that Kinetic Racing car. You know, again, a lot can happen. He's currently sitting not that far behind Mads Kjærsen, so you know, both of them have dropped about 15-20 seconds back from Peter Herschel. Herschel looking comfortable is the word I'm going to use at the head of your LMP3 Pro field. And actually, I've just realised, yes, he is indeed coming down onto the pit lane. So, of course, this Mac McFarquhar. So that is a lot closer than I was originally reading. You know, your top 3 in LMP3 AM covered by 4 seconds. That's going to get tight, and I think that's only going to get closer. Nicholas Seekatz as well. Seekatz has had good pace, running about half a second quicker than Mads Kjærsen last time.
Yep, it is. So, just around halfway now. We've been through the top 5 in the LMP3 classes. Let's do the same in GT4. Sasha Engelsey is leading in the Pro class there, ahead of Tom Oxbjerg, just making his debut tonight. Then it is Timo Hayden in 3rd to look out an all-impulse Podium. Adam Isaacson has been demoted from that. He's 4th for SimRC. Then Alessandro Proti, although we're waiting for a pit stop from him. The only one he's made so far was unscheduled, although it was late enough that he might be able to think about making this still on 2 stops. We'll update you on that as we go. Josh Boot is leading in GT4 AM, so Lee Berridge, who's now 2nd, wasn't able to retain his lead after the incident. He's now 4 seconds adrift, with Lee Kingbee 3rd, then Paul King and Evan Natafas, who we just saw in an incident at turn 7, to round out the top 5 in GT4 AM. So that's where we stand with this one. It's been an engaging race so far. You get the feeling there's still a lot to come in the last half of this race.
And I think we're about to see some action out on track now. This is Richard Simonar and the 87 of Emmanuel Gexzella in the Mercedes going at it through turn number 7. In fact, side by side off the corner, almost for the 87, but he didn't quite get the run, tucked in right behind that Porsche. I think Ben Gregory making the point in the YouTube chat just a few moments ago that the Porsche is incredibly quick in a straight line, and actually you can see opened up the gap even with the Mercedes in the draft. Now, the Mercedes got a lot of grunt off the corner, Ewan, but the Porsche really showing its legs in a straight line.
It is. The slim and sleek nature of that car benefiting it by all means. Had the rather wide and more bulky Mercedes just in the background. It's barely getting any sort of slipstream, struggling to crouch behind the car in front indeed. We've got Petter Herschel into the pit lane, so that's him dealt with in LMP3 AM, leading Mac McFarquhar, leading by 4 seconds ahead of Mads Kjærsen, and then Nicholas Skeets, as we mentioned earlier on. So a fairly stable situation in LMP3 AM. Is there any disparity in terms of pit stops here in the opening time for those LMP3s? Not as many this time around. Normally, or at least in the first 2 rounds, we've seen somebody doing something different. But other than the the speeding penalty for Christophe Herbigno, the top 10 are pretty much identical.
I think where you're seeing disparities potentially in LMP3 AM, Nicholas Seekatz in the 689 pitted 12 laps ago almost, whereas Mads Kjærsen and Adam Locke in the 555 actually pitted 9 laps to go, so there's a little bit of difference in strategy there. Boomeister as well in the 48, someone who's done incredibly well in that class so far this season, pitting 16 laps ago. So a little bit of split strategy. Some people going for the short stint first, trying to time this last stint rise. We're not far away from the pit window where someone can get to the end on one more stop here, you, and maybe another 10 laps, and we're going to be there. And that's not going to be long because of how fast the lap time is here.
It is such a fast lap. The best so far, a 1:13.2 from Matt Caruana as an overall. He's leading the race overall as well. That's a late dive from one of the LMP3s. Do they all make it out the other side? Yes, but narrowly, I would argue, as Richard Simon had to go quite wide there to allow that LMP3 down the inside. That will play into the hands of Emmanuel Gexela, who is on the back room right now. And I think noticeable here is the fact that Matt Loveridge is nowhere to be seen, and
Matt Loveridge is 10 seconds up the road.
How has he managed that? Well,
10 seconds faster pit stop. Yeah,
Good
so
point.
Matt Loveridge really pulling the impulse racing strategy to jump his way up the order a little bit. Alessandro Puoti as well, another one who's jumped himself up the order, although I will say for the 61 he will need to stop twice more. I'm not sure whether that Mercedes can get to the end of the race on one more stop from here. But Richard Simonar still defending as we change our view. This is looking to your LMP3 field, the number 77 of Peter Herschel. He has rejoined the racing circuit 2 laps ago, Ewan, after his pit stop, and another one who is going to have to make one more stop to get to the end here. So Peter Herschel in P6 fighting with Adam Hedgecock in the 13 Altitude eSports car, maybe starting to show that there's a bit of fraction in Herschel's race today.
There may be hope for a good result actually for him, which I wasn't expecting. Alessandro Puoti is into the pit lane now. That's going to leave him with 42 minutes when he exits the pit lane. I said earlier that he might be hoping for a 2-stop race today, but he's just making his 2nd stop now. He's probably on the wrong side of that in terms of how many laps we think are remaining in this one. Well, let's see how many laps he just did. 25, I think he just did. I would argue there are more than 25 laps left in this race.
Yeah, my screens are all showing me about 34.5 laps left in this race for the LMP3 cars, so it's going to be one where everyone at this point still needs to make one more stop. I would say about the 32 minute to go mark, Ewan, is going to be where we're going to start to see the strategy window open for these drivers in both classes. It does seem to be that the stint length across both classes is actually very similar, Ewan, so it's going to be a bit easier to predict when the strategy window is going to open for both classes. They're both running probably about 35-40 minutes, so there's a little bit of wiggle room there, but there's not that much for these drivers to get that strategy right.
No, not too much, but I think this is one of the wider ones that we've seen so far, and certainly wider than when we started in the previous season. I think there were a couple of rounds, maybe a few, before the race at Le Mans, when the fuel was so constraining in the previous rounds that the admins had to actually increase the amount of fuel that both classes were allocated so that they could actually do a 2-stop race at Le Mans and prevent it from going to 3, which is probably too many stops for a circuit that doesn't have many laps in it anyway, over 90 minutes. Ever since then, it's been kept roughly similar, allowing for a slightly wider window, allowing for a bit more strategy, and strategy that has changed races in the past, in last season and this. Notable examples are plenty. Of course, Sportscar's win in Catalonia probably comes down to that too. That probably couldn't have happened under the previous fuel limits, so it's worth noting, and it does probably improve the racing too that we see in the World Sports Car Championship, although it doesn't quite allow you to think about one stopping by pitting so early, and these guys won't be thinking of it just for the moment. The 2-car battles are starting to peter out slightly for the moment, but this is still one of them. Richard Sumner versus Emmanuel Gexela, who is in 8th position. He hasn't really shown any signs of going through though, and we've been watching this for a while. When Matt Loveridge was here, he wasn't showing any signs either, and now Gexela is in that same position. He is not going through at this moment.
No, and I think maybe, I'm not sure whether Emmanuel Gexela does have the pace to get past. He's running incredibly similar lap times to Richard Simonar ahead, but I'm just, again, Has he got the pace? Not sure. Is he biding his time? Maybe he's going to try and do what Matt did, his teammate, in the previous round of pit stops. And actually, now I think of it, you know, saying that Matt Loveridge is sure to stop, I think he did the same at Monza. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ewan, but I think he did the same at Monza, and that's really what propelled him up into the lead battle with Adam Isaacson. So maybe we're going to see something from Emmanuel Gaxella to do the same in this final stop. Of course, he's letting Richard Simonar do all the work here, so Richard is going to have that slightly higher fuel burn.
Ben Gregory says that Le Mans was round 2 last year, which may be correct also. I remember Sebring being the opening round. It is the final round this season, but I remember it because we had a battle between 3 LMP3s for the win. They all came out of the pit lane together, pretty much, or they went in together, they didn't come out together, and that was the point. That was where the race was settled. But they had to come in together pretty much because the fuel was so constraining, and there wasn't much wriggle room within that. But for Le Mans, and since then as well, we've seen a little bit more, and it's probably benefited the series as a whole. Richard Simonar there got dive by one of the LMP3s, and maybe that will allow the chance for Gaxella here. Down the hill they'll go, place where this race started, of course. Could have started, by the way, from any moment after the bridge at the top of the hill there. Christophe Herbinot in the lead of the field, left it quite some time before getting away. Even lap traffic, though, can't get Emmanuel Gaxella through here. He's right on the back of the Porsche, and again can't do it. Maybe this will be the chance, as off goes Richard Simonar. It was one of the LMP3s down the inside. On this occasion, it was Jacob Jenner in 14th position overall that sees Richard Simonar off the road, and Emmanuel Gaxella with the red carpet rolled out for him.
And I think Richard Simonar maybe wasn't ready for the LMP3 to come up the inside into turn number 3. It is a possible passing place, but again, it's another point on this circuit where 2 have to tango to make it work, and it just didn't then. And Richard Simonar dropping it down behind Emmanuel Gaxella, and actually a long way behind, losing a couple of seconds here, Ewan. So maybe Gaxella now has the chance to really push forward.
Maybe, unless it's one of those situations where the driver behind in a battle just always looks like the stronger one. Lee Berridge seems to have been in for a drive-through penalty in the last couple of moments. He's just re-emerged after not stopping in his box from the pit lane. That's put him in 3rd now in GT4 AM, which is increasingly looking like Josh Boot's race to lose now, with a 20-second margin over Lee King McGee, who was a feature last season as well. But don't know what that could have been for Lee Berridge, actually. Whether that was maybe an incident limit or what.
I can confirm it was incident limit. He has hit the penalty part of 24 incidents. So Lee Berridge having to come down onto the pit lane. And that's actually the first time we've seen that this season. So obviously Lee's had quite a bit of contact so far, so maybe a few off tracks as well, building up for the 51. But unfortunate for Lee, he was looking strong. Again, his incident wasn't that. He lost some time, but not that much. To be fair, I think he came off pretty well still. You know, he was in or around this battle with Josh Boot to really put the pressure on. But 20 seconds behind now, I think that's going to be a long time to pull that back up.
It is. And as you say, contact already today, and nearly 20% of those incidents will have come when he hit Matthias Penteler, who was stranded on the exit of turn 5, giving him all that damage that he's had to recover from. It's put him behind in this race, and he's never really been able to recover from that. Plenty of drivers in YouTube, by the way, today. Howard Hassan has joined us now as well. Couldn't quite make it for the race start, unfortunately, but hopefully we'll see him back for the remainder of the season. Along with Rob Sutherland, who's also here after crashing out from today. And there's plenty of drivers who can stay or say the same at the moment. Looks like in the last few moments, Leo Bonneman and Dylan Banshaw have both called it a day. And that's bringing our retirements list up to nearly 10 now, as to what's been a pretty difficult race for everybody. And a day that saw a diminished field to start with anyway. I wonder what would have happened if we got the Monza size field at this circuit.
I think this is the highest attrition we've seen so far this season. Of course, Road Atlanta, one of the downsides of the circuit, I think, is actually it does present high attrition. So maybe that is something we're also seeing here today as we ride through the S's. There's Richard Simonar on the 42 on the right-hand side. You know, 35 minutes to go. I think things maybe, I'm going to say it now, you watch, Ewan. Things are going to settle down, and we're going to have this last run into the race. We're approaching the final round of pit stops, so that's going to open up a few more opportunities for these drivers to make some moves, to make some strategy calls that could be beneficial for them. But so far on the circuit, everyone pretty spread out. Again, Road Atlanta seems to be a circuit that does present that. The sort of closest battle on track at the moment is Match Kyson and Adam Locke in LMP3 app.
It is. It's certainly a change to what we saw in the first half an hour to what we're about to see in this final half an hour. That's for sure. Of course, we've got to get used to this kind of circuit, though, haven't we? Really, I mean, we're talking about on blaming almost Road Atlanta for a high attrition rate, but it's worth remembering that this is what happens and will continue to happen in the next few weeks as well. Next time out is Interlagos. We've got Daytona after that, which is not exactly a wide open and one of those circuits where you've got loads of runoff and loads of space. Mugello as well. Not until we get to Fuji at the penultimate round are we really going to see one of those wide open Grand Prix circuits again. So it's much more characterises what this series is going to be really this round than what the previous rounds have done, which has given them a bit of a maybe false reality as to what the tracks are going to be like.
And I think, exactly as you say, they're very different tracks that we're going to see over the course of the next 4 rounds, including Road Atlanta. So these drivers have to think differently. Daytona, it's one of them funny circuits where half of it's very wide open. You're out on the oval, you can go 3-4 wide without an issue, but you get in the infield, you get in the bus stop, you can't. You can barely go 1 wide through the bus stop because of the bumps and the corners. So these drivers, maybe this Road Atlanta race catching them off guard a little bit. It's been a different dynamic, and we're definitely seeing that today. It's going to produce different racing, but every circuit will always produce different racing. And we see it in this series. We see it in every series, not just on the iRacing service, but in motorsport in general. And across the board, different circuits produce different racings, and the drivers have to adapt to that.
We've been following Adam Locke into the pit lane here. It's in a battle with Nicholas Skitz, I think, for third in LMP3 AM. Now that has been resolved. Still big gaps at the front. Mac McFarquhar has 8 seconds now over Mads Kieltsen. Then it's Nicholas Skitz. Only 1 second between those two, I suppose, but even so. The big changes, I think, are going to come in GT4 Pro on the exit of these pit stops, because Adam Isaacson still has a bit of working out to do here. He's got, about 10 seconds to Sasha Ringlesey, although his pit stop last time around was 8 seconds longer. So I think this race actually might be quite well balanced in this class, but maybe a 2-horse race now.
It could be a 2-horse race. We could see some of the Impulse Racing cars come back. Maybe we're going to see Thomas, Marks Burgess and Timo Hayden start to really put the pressure up on each other. They know they're not going to be able to challenge for the lead, so why not have a bit of battling between your teammates as long as it's respectful and classy? I don't really see much of an issue, and that's sort of speaking as a team manager. That's, as long as they race carefully, I think it's okay to do that, but don't do it until after the pit stops, because someone might miss their box, someone might get a speeding penalty, and all of a sudden you're in position to really advantage of that. Of course, Adam Isaacson really taking the long stop in the last round of pit stops, now around 7-8 seconds behind Sasha Anglesey, so I think he's in the window where he can make it work, and we are approaching that window now where people can get to the end of the race on one more stop with 31 minutes to go. So I think it's possible. I think it's something we're going to see and bring on the pit stops.
Yeah, we are comfortably in that window now, and it will be for the next 7 laps or so, I think, before we see all of the pit stops figured out. Spoilmeister is the latest of them to come in, but in GT4 it may even go on for longer than that. Don't forget that it was 3 GT4s that stuck it out for the longest of anyone in that first round of pit stops, so maybe they'll do that again in the second round too. There's another look at one of the other Impulse cars. It's Thomas Mark Burgess making a debut tonight in the series, one of 2 debuts being made. Kamundre Bjorklund is 9th in GT4 Pro, making his debut as well. So it's good to see a couple of new drivers in the series, and we will get another debutant as well for the remainder of this season, as Ollie Brocklehurst makes his debut. He's been added to the series for the season, so we'll be seeing a bit more of him throughout the second half as well. But so far, 2 debutants this time around inside the top turn. And Thomas Mark Burgess, I think, the more impressive of the two debuts, although he is part of the Impulse Racing setup, of course, and that will help him. Any new driver into the series will, of course, be massively helped by any team that they're a part of, especially Impulse, who have such a well-recognised reputation in these kind of cars.
And Thomas Marks Burgess as well, being sort of just north of 7,000 iRating, Ewan. He's incredibly experienced on the iRacing service. He's going to know how to deal with races of this kind. So I have no worries that the 72 is going to be incredibly successful in the rest of the season. Maybe even getting a race win. We've seen Impulse Racing do it. Timo Hayden managed it at the first round at Catalonia. Of course, Adam Isaacson taking it the last time out. As actually, while we're on the subject of GT4 Pro, the pit stops are beginning. All of the Impulse cars are into the lane, but Adam Isaacson is staying out.
Well, I think he's going to stay out for longer than the Impulse guys, but how much longer is, I think, the question. It's a question of, when, not if, really. As the three come in, what order are they going to leave in? You'd imagine their pit stop times will be very similar, because their first stops were, as we noted at the time, just 26 seconds for them first time around. Now, we'll keep a very close eye as to what the pit stop times are this time around. Ticks over 20 for Anglesey now, who of course came to a stop first, and it's up towards 30 seconds for him now. He's finally on his way, but half a minute in the lane for him, so that was 4 seconds shorter than Isaacson's previous stop as well. So Isaacson really needs a very, very short stop in this next one. I would argue 20 seconds or less if he wants to come out ahead.
But I think he might be able to, because the Impulse Racing cars, they've had to take almost a full tank of fuel to get to the end of this race, Ewan, and I don't think Adam Isaacson needs it. That longer stop is going to play into his hands. Don't count out Michael Pedersen as well in the 97, who's currently in second position. Yes, he's 15 seconds behind Adam Isaacson, but could play into this as well. So yes, I'm quite interested to see how this plays out, of course, with the number of laps left on the stint, and also actually for the likes of Sasha Anglesey, they've come out into traffic. Anglesey is now behind Josh Boot, the AM leader.
That's not ideal. And then there's Kim-Andre Bjorklund as well, who has been steadily caught actually by Josh Boot in the last 20 minutes or so. That could present a problem for Impulse Racing if they don't navigate it quickly enough, but let's find out if they do. With 27 minutes to go, and I guess the question remains also about how long Adam Isaacson is actually going to leave this. Is he going to run the tank entirely dry and then come in with what might be just 20 minutes remaining, or is he going to come in early? I would suggest to him that maybe he needs to run that tank dry to benefit from the low fuel as much as he possibly can.
Obviously no safety cars in this series unless absolutely necessary, so the chance of having a safety car is incredibly low for Adam Isaacson. He's not going to get caught out on the strategy here, so I have to agree with you. Utilise the low fuel, utilise the tyres in the state there are, and really give it everything you've got now in that 78 to try and make the most of it. Just looking at the lap times, a 24.4 last time around. Sasha Anglesey, it was a 2:11 because that is his in lap, so we need to wait a little bit longer to work out where the relative pace is to see what Adam Isaacson can gain back on those Impulse Racing cars.
Leaking McGee is in from second in GT4 AM. That's put Lee Berridge ahead. Will that remain? Maybe. Berridge came in for oh no, that's his counting from his drive-through, so that's no use. He's not going to be ahead of King McGee, I don't think, because of that delay and that drive-through for the incident limit. The first we believe that we've seen all season. I don't know if we missed any, but we haven't been to particularly high off-track circuits just yet. Now, side by side here, between one of the Impulse drivers, it is Thomas Marks Burgess who's trying to find his way past Alessandro Proti at the moment. I don't think Proti can make it to the end, but he can make it a long way into this stint, and so he could be a bit of a thorn in Impulse Racing's side.
Proti, a driver who in the first two rounds we spoke a lot about, running up towards the front of the GT4 Pro field, but today having a little bit more struggle in that Mercedes. He's running more towards the midfield, and as you say, still owes us a pit stop with around 25 minutes remaining in the race. But Thomas Marks Burgess all over the back with the lights flashing down the main straight, but can't find a way past that Mercedes just yet.
No, and he was really aggressively trying to as well. You saw it with the light flashing on the front straight. He is desperate to get through. Just ahead of Matt Loveridge, who's also made his stop. So actually Loveridge is 1 seconds behind Marks Burgess legitimately. So where is Timo Hayden? He's up the road. Marks Burgess did a 37-second stop there. I wonder whether he had dramas in pit lane, because that seems like a long stop to me, and Loveridge is in danger of getting through on the debutant here.
Could that have been tyres for Marks Burgess? Just thinking, to cover every boundary, you know, it's a 37-second stop. I'm not sure whether he's going to have overfilled the car. I'm not sure whether a driver of his pedigree would do such a thing. So maybe accidentally or on purpose taking tyres, indeed, in that second pit stop for Thomas Marks Burgess. But as you say, Matt Loveridge, he's sort of making his way up the field, doing what he did in Monza, where he kind of creeps up and then all of a sudden in the last sort of half an hour goes surprise and is on this pack for the win, or at least fighting for the podium, I think is what we're going to be seeing here in GT4 Pro.
Yeah, I think so. There is Timo Hayden, who will be there as well. 1.2 seconds off of Connor Clifford, who's still yet to pit from that class. Between him in extensive battles with likes of Kim Andre Björklund, who's into the pit lane this lap too. Only 17 LMP3s remain in the race, by the way, as Doriani Ricciuti is the latest one to retire, along with Nikolai Loft, Leo Bonnemat, Daniel Vanshot, Tom Weston, Toby Ward and Dan Piazza, in a long list of LMP3s that have retired, and we could well begin to see some more, because that was a big crash for Julien Plumet, who is into the pit lane now, and that car took some getting back to pit lane, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, I have to agree, and I think I'd take a pretty confident guess that Julien Plumet will be out of the motor race. He was caught up on those opening laps, Ewan, in a lot of the incidents that we saw. Well, I think one of the cars involved in the first lap incident up at turn 5, so Julien Plumet really coming a cropper. This is Richard Simnar on the 42, dropped a long way down your GT4 Pro, gone out the inside at turn 7, and there's contact, and yes, into the wall he goes. That's going to have a considerable amount of damage on that Porsche.
Silly, I would describe that as. Now, the dive itself wasn't the worst part, but although it was aggressive, I think the fact that he left absolutely no space on the outside at all to the driver he was alongside. Can't identify which Mercedes that is actually, but anyway, that doesn't matter. He just complete disregard left for the driver on the outside there for whatever reason.
Yeah, that was the 164 of Evan Natafas, I believe, that was caught up with Richard Simnar there coming through turn 7. And yes, I have to agree, I think Richard Simnar maybe just opened up the corner a little bit too much. Came in very hot, as we're going to see a second angle of this, looking back from Evan Natafas in the 164. So Simnar going up the inside, very hot, there's room here. And then, yeah, I think it's just Simnar tracking out, not realising that the Mercedes is still there, and that causes the contact.
I mean, we were on board with him. He straightened out the wheel. It was clear as day for me there. And, well, that is the end of that for Richard Simnar and Evan Natafas, who are both damaged now, although neither in the pit lane, interestingly. They may have been in recently to repair that damage, but they're quite considerably apart now, and they're both the last running cars in their respective classes. Evan Natafas 5th and last in GT4 AM, 11th and last in GT4 Pro for Richard Simnar, for whose day it really hasn't been today. Maybe you could say the same about this man. Thomas Marks Burgess is still behind Alessandro Proti. Now Timo Hayden's about to run into the same problem with Josh Boot up ahead, and this is the problem with Impulse's strategy. It got them ahead in the middle stint, but what about at the end, when they're pitting first and they're ending up in all this traffic?
Yeah, this could be where the strategy starts to become unstuck. I'm not sure whether... I think Timo Hayden will have an easier job of getting past Josh Boot, which it looks as though he's actually trying right now. But I'm not sure about Thomas Marks Burgess. He's struggling to get past Alessandro Proti, and with 16 laps almost into Puotti's stint. There's still another good 10 laps here for him to compete, Ewan. So I think it's in Thomas Marks Burch's best interest to get past and start making progress up this field.
It is, but then again, Puotti's not actually going that slowly. Last lap was a 24.8. That was quicker than Timo Hayden, for example, who is running on his own. It wasn't quicker than Adam Isaacson, though, and that might be the key. The key battle there is between Anglesey and Isaacson. Now, Isaacson is a 10th quicker on that last lap, 10th and a half or so. That's going to benefit him later on in the race when he inevitably makes his pit stop, and surely that moment is not too far away now.
No, currently on lap number 20, just about to complete lap number 25 of this second stint for your GT4 Pro leader. So I expect to see Adam Isaacson along with Michael Pedersen, and actually, as we're talking about this, Adam Isaacson down onto pit lane. So crunch time is now for Sasha Anglesey. Absolutely foot to the floor for the second half of the lap for the number 3 machine, as we see the number 78 come to a stop.
Here we go, the big moment in the race, the most disputed of the class leads remaining in this World Sports Car Championship race at Road Atlanta is about to draw to a conclusion. Adam Isaacson in the pit lane on the main part of your screen, noticeably not going up on the jacks for tyres. He's already going, in fact. How much longer does he have until the pit exit? Sasha Anglesey will be hoping quite some way, but he's not going to get his wish. Adam Isaacson's going to be there before he is, I reckon, as it's a long way out of pit lane, of course, but there is the commitment line. He's off the pit limiter already. Isaacson is making his way up the hill. There is Sasha Anglesey trying to stay with him, but can't do so. You can't even see him over the top of the hill. There's smoke, and that was just from the LMP3, happily for Isaacson, who is ahead and comfortably so in the GT4 Pro race. So advantage to him. Can he hold on to it for 18 minutes?
Let's find out. 3.2 seconds is the gap between Sasha Anglesey and Adam Isaacson. Apologies, it's 3 seconds, but that was enabled by Adam Isaacson, Ewan, taking a 21-second stop. It's 10 seconds faster than that of Sasha Anglesey and Timo Hayden. So the number 78 really putting himself in a good position, but I can see the impulse drivers fighting back here. 3 seconds is a lot of time that can be won or lost in traffic as well. So I think there's still a long way to go here, Ewan, but I think, you know, Adam Isaacson, one hand on the final finishing positions here.
Yeah, it's not long to go now. 17 and a half minutes, as we can see. Manuel Gutzella in from the lead in GT4 Pro, and that should cleanse the field. I think that will mean everyone who needs to pit has done. Paul King maybe still does. And there might be late stops for the likes of Alessandro Puotti, of course, and Petter Herschel, who have made extra stops in today's race. But everyone's made 2 now out on the circuit, and that should leave us with the drivers where they should be in the race. Nicholas Skitz is now in 4th place in LMP3 AM, just ahead of Adam Locke, and he'll be looking to hold on to this because I believe they'll be both ahead of Petter Herschel when he inevitably comes in for his final stop of the day.
I think you could be right, Petter Herschel. He's going to be pitting very late on in this race, within the last sort of 14-13 minutes of this one, I think. But I think that time loss is still going to be considerable. 20 seconds to do a run through the pit lane. We know that from the time that Lee Berridge spent down on the pit lane for his drive-through penalty. Plus, you've also got to get the cars slowed down and sped up at the same time. So there's considerable time loss for Peter Herschel. Whether that will make much difference, I'm not sure. Michael Pedersen on pit exit, and this contact, so that has taken that Mercedes out of the GT4 Pro running.
And there's the answer to the question. Someone asking in YouTube what happened, and that is it for Michael Pedersen, spinning spectacularly into the wall. Not really the fault of his own, and something we often speak about actually is the pit exit at Road Atlanta, because it does spit you almost straight out onto the racing line. It's not quite as bad as that, but it nearly is. And we often talk about it to little effect. It doesn't actually happen very often, but we've seen 2 incidents of very similar sort in one go here today. And that's a real shame for Michael Pedersen, who I think was on for a top 5 in today's race at the time. That will no longer be the case. He's down in 10th place as it stands.
Yeah, Michael Pedersen really coming unstuck in the 97 after the pit stops, so a little bit of a work back is needed as we put our focus back on Richard Simner, someone who we've been looking at a lot today actually. The 42 looks to have that damage repaired from his pit stop 8 laps ago. And Kim-Andre Bjorklund, the rookie in the series, making his debut today this season, putting the pressure on in the 89. The two Porsches, actually, the only Porsches in GT4.
Yeah, not very popular car this season, is it? Certainly compared to what it sometimes is. But Bjorklund will be fancying his chances here. Richard Simner clearly irritated with the way that this race has panned out, because Evan Natafas was very much squeezed out by him. I'm not sure whether that was anger because he was supposed to be a lapped car or what was going on there. I'm not even sure if they were on different laps, but anyway, he ended up in the wall, did Simner, and it did coincide with a pit stop, but nevertheless, it's not a good place to be. And if he's driving irritated, Kim-Andre Bjorklund might be able to take advantage of that in the next 15 minutes or so. I think on paper though, and if you had put these two side by side isolated, and I know that races aren't played out on paper, but if we were to, then you might fancy Richard Simner. But Bjorklund is an unknown prospect, and maybe Richard Simner will have never come across him before.
You never know. You know, these drivers. There's so. I don't know the exact number, but of course there's such a vast array of drivers, and on the iRacing service, it is possible that these two have never run into each other on circuit before. So this could be the first time that Richard Simner is going to learn who he's going to be fighting up against for the rest of this season, as we see an LMP3 making their way through this battle down the hill one more time. So Richard Simner actually doing a really good job. We saw him earlier on in the race absolutely stalwart defending from behind, so I think Richard Simner can hold on to this. I don't think the pace advantage from Kim-Andre Bjorklund is there to be able to make the move, and of course with two Porsches it's going to be more down to driver's skill maybe than two different car manufacturers. And
with those guys earlier was Josh Boot, but it's worth noting that he's no longer in amongst that battle anymore. 37 seconds is the gap between Boot and Lee King McGee now, who is in second. Excuse me, that's all wrong. 37 seconds is the amount of time Josh Boot just spent on pit lane. 6 seconds is the gap between Lee King McGee and Josh Boot, just to clear that up. So the difference, and the key thing to note there, that the headline there is 37 seconds for Josh Boot. Why is it taken so long for him in the pit lane?
Oh, that could be all manner of things. You just do not know. 37 seconds. Maybe it's a tyre change. Maybe it's I don't think that's a long enough stop for it to be a penalty of some kind for the 606. So I do wonder whether it maybe is a strategic call to take tyres for the final stage of this race. Try and really cover off any attack behind from Lee King McGee, especially now Lee Berridge is not a threat in the McLaren, although still running third in this GT4 AM field. So yeah, again, a very interesting one. A replay on your screens. This is Menderes in the number 55 Kimura Racing black LMP3 on the curb through T5. Okay, so not quite sure what's going to happen here. Yes, blown engine, apparently. Blown
engine, yeah. So he's just slowing. You can hear it ticking over in the background, but he's getting overtaken by GT4 cars, which tells you all you need to know. That's clearly behind us here. There is some form of smoke, although not really. Well, okay. Not even obvious smoke, just just an engine blown. And that's the end of his day. Well, maybe not the end of his day, but certainly the end of his run.
Yeah, must have. I suspect that could be end of the day, especially if there's no fast repair there for the 55 to take. And I would hazard a guess there was. As 2 minutes 2 seconds later, he's back out on track after a tow and what is probably most likely a fast repair. So Mert Menderes in the 55 LMP3 Pro machine back out after that engine failure. Something we see very rarely here on iRacing, but it is possible. Damage that cooling system, the engine will get hot, and if you're not keeping an eye on it, you're not managing those engine temperatures with the damaged cooling system, and all of a sudden it can go a bang. Change of the lead in LMP3 AM. Peter Herschel in the 77 has now taken his final stop, an 11-second stop, and it's going to bring him right out into this battle we're seeing on the screen. And in fact, he's got on ahead of Nicolas Siatas and Adam Locke, so he holds on to that third position in LMP3 AM.
Wow, Nicholas Skeets not able to get ahead of Petter Herschel, and I wasn't expecting that at all from him. So Petter Herschel, despite making an early stop today, has made it work with 2 shorter ones. I know it means an extra trip down pit lane, but if you're quick enough, you can clearly make it work, and Herschel has. And since he's fresh out the pit lane with a bit of ambition here, then maybe he will be able to hold on to third place. An immediate bit of traffic as well helps him to sustain a bit of a gap.
Yeah, and actually open that gap up by the looks of it to sort of around a second and a half, 2 seconds over Nicholas Sietas. So the Kinetic Racing driver and Adam Locke behind, they're going to both now be fighting with less than 10 minutes left in this race, Ewan. There's a podium position here in LMP3 AM that we thought was going to go between these 2 drivers on screen, but you can see Petter Herschel just going over the brow of the hill under the bridge, heading down through 11 and 12. He's all of a sudden in the driving seat for that position for that 3rd place.
He is. What a remarkable turnaround there. The pole sitter off the podium again in LMP3 AM. That pole position becoming a bit of a curse almost in this class. Certainly has for the last couple of rounds. The leader and pole sitter 2 weeks ago taken out immediately at Monza almost. And not taken out this time, Nicholas Skeets, but not exactly converting that pole position to a win or even a podium in this race here today. A very unpredictable category, it's fair to say. LMP3 Pro has been more predictable in the last few moments. Matt Caruana has been leading for almost all of the 64 laps so far. He's just completed another one, and with 9 minutes to go, he's probably still got 7 or 8 laps remaining. But Adam State has been slowly and steadily bringing that gap back, but as we were talking about in the first half an hour, if you let the gap get too high and too wide, you just don't have enough time to pull it all back again in this length of races, as Nicholas Skeets gets overtaken down the inside by Adam Locke for 4th place.
Adam Locke putting in a really good move there as he gets past Nicholas Skeets down the inside of the Kinetic Racing machine. So nice and clean into 10A10B. I think the 689 is going to have a look into turn number 1. A bit of traffic is going to get in the way, so it's not going to happen this time by. And actually, that's going to give Adam Locke the better run through that first corner and up the hill into turn number 3. And starting to open up that gap. I wonder whether Adam Locke is starting to see the potential for a podium here, and he's going to start to chase after Petter Herschel. The gap is only around 1.4 seconds between P3 and P4 in your LMP3 AM category.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting final to this race as we conclude round 3 of the World Sportscar Championship here this season. Still 5 to go after this one. In a couple of weeks' time, we'll be back on RaceSpotTV again for the Interlagos round. Another 90 minutes ahead of us for that one. And we'll be bringing you that one again on RaceSpotTV, of course. These fortnightly events right up until the final races of the season, where there's a double header at the end for Fuji and Sebring to really get the last couple of rounds out the way all very quickly. And that will leave us hopefully with an exciting finale to look forward to in the same country we're in right now, of course, in a slightly different part of the world, but there you are, from Road Atlanta to Sebring in the 8th round of the championship. Just under 7 minutes still to go here, and battles very much beginning to peter out. I think one of the more interesting ones, though, is in LMP3 Pro, because Christophe Herbinot has finally caught Nathan Moore. It's taken him quite a while to sort of regain the time that was lost in that speeding penalty during that first round of pit stops, but Herbinot has finally done it. So as battles for 3rd in both Pro and Am now for the prototype class.
Yes, and that's taken, as you say, Christophe Herbinot, almost an hour to gain back that time that he lost. That shows how fast and how close the top of your LMP3 Pro category is. But actually, Christophe Herbinot now managed to get past Nathan Moore. It looks like the pass has been done, and he is going to go and charge. Actually, I say charge after Adam State. I'm not sure he's going to be making up about 22 seconds in the last 6 minutes of this motor race. So we are watching on your screens. This is the battle for. This is still the battle for your LMP3 AM podium. Looks as though Petter Herschel has managed to get away. Adam Locke and Nicholas Skeets really running close together. They don't want to fight too much, but I think Petter Herschel may have the pace on the two of them here. Looks like it.
Although he was overtaken. Excuse me, they got past an LMP a lapped LMP3 on that last couple of moments. So yeah, Herschel does still have quite some space over the rest. Yeah, Herbino ahead of Nathan Moore now, and that seems pretty set in stone. Taylor Lane and Callum Brandt were fighting for 5th as well in Pro. That seems to be going away too, in the favour of Taylor Lane, who is comfortably 5th. The guys he was battling with earlier on are a long way away. Matthias Penteler down in 7th place in the class, and quite a few seconds back they were battling earlier on, of course. And I forget the other driver they were fighting with, but might be out of the race. Maybe Leo Bonneman, who was also fighting with, I think it was, and he's now out of the race, of course. So a very changed race for Taylor Lane, but a top 5 will do him very nicely. It's worth noting the gaps, though, I think, at the very front of the field. I reckon only 4 cars are going to end on the lead lap here, because Taylor Lane and Callum Brandt are only right in front of Matt Caruana, the race leader.
Do you know what? I think you could be right, Matt Caruana. They are the next 2 to be lapped, the 52 and the 30. Well, sorry, the 58 and the 32. Next to be lapped by the 17. So I think you are correct. There's not going to be many left on the league lap, and I think that also sums up how fast Matt Caruana has been today, how well he's been performing. He hasn't got the fastest lap. That does go to Christophe Herbino. He does seem to be the only driver so far to get into the 1:12s today. Matt Caruana does look to be the next fastest at a 1:13.2. So excellent pace from your front runners. And I think maybe Christophe Herbino could have taken the fight to Matt Caruana had it not been for that slow first pit stop. And that shows how important they are. Obviously, these drivers have to get the moves done cleanly out on track, but if you can't execute the pit stops as well, you're not going to get the package done.
Yeah, and I do wonder what difference that made, but I think it's worth thinking about the momentum shift, that we've maybe had in the last couple of weeks of this championship, because Christophe Herbino got off to a pretty comfortable and convincing start by winning at Barcelona in the opening round of this championship, but was denied 2 weeks ago at Monza, denied again here, doesn't finish second here either. He won't catch Adam State in time without a miracle to finish in the runner-up spot, so maybe he's starting to lose his way a little bit, despite qualifying on pole again here by 2 tenths. So looking at that, you would expect him to be not dominant, but you would expect him to take control of this race, but he never really had control.
No, and I just wonder whether that was maybe part of it. The qualifying was incredibly strong, but the race pace just wasn't there, and Caruana has been a bit stronger on the race pace, and that's just maybe where we've seen the race start to peter into Caruana's favour. But qualifying is one thing. Getting a 90-minute race executed on a short circuit that's tight, that's twisty, with 44 cars out on circuit, that is another story. And I think Matt Caruana has been the absolute ace of the field today to get that done. Actually, I would say that for all of our class leaders. Mac McFarquhar in the AM class has been really, really strong. Adam Isaacson, again, showing he has the pace in GT4 Pro, but that gap obviously being much closer. And again, Josh Boot showing he is incredibly quick. And talking about one lap pace, Christophe Herbino going another 2 tenths faster than his best, getting himself into the mid 1:12s to a point where the next fastest car on their best lap is 8 tenths slower.
That is quick. Very, very quick time from Christophe Herbino there, comfortably better than those around him in terms of fastest laps, and just underlining the pace that he's had today, but not necessarily the execution, and he might not be ruining that particularly because of that penalty that's probably put him into the position that he would have finished in anyway, but nevertheless it's maybe a little bit disappointing for him to see what could have been today. This is one of the last remaining battles out there on the circuit. Callum Brandt trying to make his way past Taylor Lane. Brandt recovering, of course, from that opening stint spin on the way down the hill through the S's. One of the few drivers to spin through turn 5 in the early moments of this race. All of the battle seems to be settled, really. Adam Locke still ahead of Nicholas Skeets. Alessandro Puoti has finally made his last stop of the day. He's behind Richard Simnett and Kim-Andre Bjorklund, who you'd expect to be quicker than, but with only a minute left, he's probably going to run out of time to overtake them.
Yes, I think you're right. They've just come across the start-finish line, so I think they're going to have around 2 laps left. I'm not sure the leader is going to get to them in time for that to have an effect, but as you say, Alessandro Puoti dropping behind the 2 Porsches in GT4 Pro. And I think that's going to be important for his race. Of course, one of the drivers who's had to make 3 pit stops, a short final stop, Ewan, but it wasn't enough. As we see on screen, this is the battle, by the looks of it, between Taylor Lane and Callum Brandt. Traffic's getting in the way, and Callum Brandt's been able to take the advantage out of 10B through 11 and 12. Get the most out of that and get the position, get past Taylor Lane. With 1 lap, they start their final lap.
They do start their final lap. Now, who was in the way there? Because Taylor Lane is going to be furious about that. It may have cost him positions on this last lap.
That was Matt Caruana.
Yes. So Caruana has put them a lap down, and I suppose he's within his rights to, but Taylor Lane has been disadvantaged as a result of this. So this will be their last lap. It will be Caruana's last lap as well, by the way, as the white flag was waving. Can Taylor Lane do anything here?
I'm not sure. I wonder whether we could see an advantage or a challenge from Taylor Lane down into the final corner. We'll be able to keep an eye on this and watch our leader cross the line as they come out of turn 7 for the final time here at Road Atlanta. One final run down this incredibly long back straight for such a short circuit. Matt Caruana, I think, might be able to give Callum Brandt a bit of a lifeline here by giving him the draft, and I don't think Taylor Lane's going to be close enough. No, he's not. The Prestanda Nomad car is going to have to settle for 6th, and Matt Caruana has affected the battle for this position.
He certainly has, and he's affected the battles and the positions for everybody else here today, because he is going to win round 3 of the World Sports Car Championship here at Road Atlanta. A dominant performance from him after taking the lead early on to win by distance. It's going to be Mac Farquhar who wins in LMP3 AM. He was a lap down at the end of the day, but has a comfortable margin to the likes of Mads Kjeldsen, who is behind. Adam Isaacson seems to have already come across the line as well. He will win in GT4 Pro by about 1.9 seconds in the end. Josh Boot is going to be credited with a lap's lead because Lee King McGee was behind the leader, whereas he wasn't. There's Isaacson. We're able to see him take the checkered flag, but he did, and he wins in GT4 Pro. In LMP3 AM, Mac Farquhar should have made his way over the line by now and has done to take the win there, ahead of Mads Kjeldsen, around 15 seconds behind, and Petter Herschel, who did hang on for 3rd place. Nicholas Gitz did hold on for 4th. Then Josh Boot, who's about to come across the line now too. He's doing very well this season so far. 2nd place at the end of the GT4 AM season last time out, and he's got this season off to a good start here in season 2. He was the championship leader going into today, but he is going to extend that with a race win.
Yeah, an excellent race by Josh Boot, an excellent race by all of our class winners. LMP3, I think, being decided a little bit fairly on. Matt Caruana getting away in the opening laps and never really looking back, Ewan. You know, he pulled away. Mac Farquhar kind of did the same. Didn't have quite as much. Actually, I would say he had a bigger advantage over Matt Kjeldsen in 2nd place in that class.
Matt Caruana wins by 8.4 seconds ahead of Adam State, and then there's half a minute back to Christophe Herbeneau, who rescued a 3rd place from Nathan Moore right at the very end. Then we get to the drivers a lap down already. Callum Brandt getting past Taylor Lane late on, as we saw, with Mac Farquhar winning LMP3 AM from 7th, ahead of Mads Kjeldsen, Petter Herschel and Nicholas Skeerts. Outside, I've fallen into it. Nicholas Skeerts, sorry. Adam Locke finishes outside the top 10. Justin Mister 12th, ahead of Matthias Pentela, who was a pro driver, ahead of Adam Hedgecock, the AM driver. They both finished 7th in their respective classes. So did Jacob Jenner and Mert Menderes. Adam Isaacson wins in GT4 Pro, ahead of Sasha Engelty, Timo Heiden and Thomas Marks Burgess, who makes a good debut to finish 4th. Matt Loveridge 5th, ahead of his teammate Manuel Gaxella for Walk Racing Esports. Richard Simnor holds off for Alessandro Poti and Michael Pedersen to the end there, with what I would describe as an incident, pushing Kim Andre Bjorklund down the field to 27th, so Connor Clifford could get to 26th. Josh Boot wins in GT4 AM ahead of Lee King McGee and Lee Berridge. Paul King and Evangelos Natafas, the final drivers to finish. Julien Plumet, I don't think, re-emerged from the pit lane after his incident. He was in the pit lane for the final 15 minutes. Then we get to the retirements of the day. Doriano Ricciuti, Nikolai Loft, Leo Bonneman, Dylan Banshot, Rob Sutherland, Tom Weston, Andy Shield, Toby West, Dan Piazza, Alistair Leckie and Jeremy Rouleau. Lots of drivers retiring from that race, unfortunately, but that's what we see at Road Atlanta. One man who was able to conquer it all, though, was Matt Caruana, and he can join us now. Welcome in, Matt. Good to have you with us. A dominant win from you today, 8.4 seconds the gap at the end. How do you assess that performance overall? Doesn't look like we can hear Matt at the moment. I don't know why. I don't know if he's chatting to us and something's going wrong on his end or ours, but I can't hear him. So we're going to have to wait to hear from him in a moment. He's trying something. I can see him at the moment, and we'll get to him in a few moments' time. But 8.4 seconds was his margin over Adam State at the end. Can you hear us now, Matt? Can we hear you? Oh, I can hear a mic lighting up, but no sound. so that's no good. We'll try and get something working as he does try to. We'll move out and we'll move to another class winner while he tries to sort that out. Adam Isaacson, we will go to next. GT4 Pro winner in the end. Welcome in, Adam. Good to have you with us again for this one. Difference in strategy between you and the Impulse Racing drivers here today. Were you confident in your strategy at the start of the day, or were you surprised by theirs maybe?
Yeah, thank you very much. I kinda decided to take a bit of a gamble. Wasn't quite sure it was gonna work with taking no tires. Because obviously, as you may have noticed, you lose about 3 seconds or so by taking tires. And to be honest, I think that's what won me the race in the end. Because that's basically what I had down to Sasha as I exited the pits.
I mean, something else that won you the race was, of course, the traffic, and we all know how attritional this race can be. How difficult was it to stay out of the way of the LMP3s? How difficult was the traffic to negotiate at a tight track like this one?
Well, I had a few hairy moments, that's for sure. But yeah, most of the time it was fine. Sometimes you can get a bit unlucky here with getting traffic in a bad place, but most of the time it's fine.
Well, you were able to negotiate it well and win the race. Congratulations, Adam, on another win tonight at Road Atlanta, and we look forward to seeing you at the next round.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Adam Isaacson there, the winner of the GT4 Pro class. We're going to try Matt Caruana again now because his mic's enabled, and I hope that we can hear him. Matt, welcome in. Can we hear you, and can you hear us? A resounding no, I think is the answer to that one. So we're going to leave Matt for the moment because I don't know what's going on with that. But Jack, we've had a good time here. 90 minutes at Road Atlanta for round 3 of the championship. It was a good round in the end, an attritional one, but it's going to be very different next time around. This has been Road Atlanta, of course, but on the 9th of April, we'll be back again at Sao Paulo, of course, and Interlagos for round 4.
And this is going to be the first race where we're going to see high temperatures. We could see track temperatures hitting 50, 60 degrees Celsius, Ewan. So I think Adam Isaacson mentioned about tyres being sort of part of his strategy. I think that's going to be a very important part for round number 4 at Interlagos. But again, another great circuit. It's another circuit that does produce good multi-class racing. And of course, although it is FIA Grade 1, which of course is something that I said about one of the sort of 2 previous rounds being quite wide and open, this is an FIA Grade 1 that's a bit more tight. It's a bit more twisty. The drivers are going to have to think like they do at Road Atlanta about where the traffic is going to place themselves. It's going to be a fantastic race. I'm going to say this every single round because this series will produce it.
It certainly will. So make sure you join us for that 9th of April at 7:45 UTC. Just check that with the European time changes that are going to happen this weekend. So by the time we roll around again, wherever you are in the world, in 2 weeks' time on Tuesday, just check the right time so that you don't come to this race an hour early or an hour late, even worse. But we do hope that you will join us. This has been round 3 from Road Atlanta. A big thanks for your company here this evening, everyone who's been watching along. I've been Ewan O'Leary alongside Jack Stiles here this evening with Mike Yao pushing the buttons behind the scenes. Until we see you in a couple of weeks' time down in South America for the first time in the World Sportscar Championship for Season 2, it's goodbye for now.